to everyone. It is 1:03, and I am just grateful to have everyone here in the room. I anticipate more people will be joining us, but we will get started at this time. So I just want to say on behalf of EmpowerFX, which I'm the founder of, and ACBN, which is the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, which I'm the co-founder, one of the co-founders. We're very happy to bring to you this session. If you've attended our grant writing session before, you would have probably seen my colleague, Ryan Knight. But today you get me. So I'm really excited to dive into a little bit about myself. I guess the terminology that is used is a serial entrepreneur, but really looking at impact-based businesses and organizations. With EmpowerFX in particular, we have a strong focus in supporting nonprofits and for-profits to develop their social enterprise or social purpose actively. We have a certification program. For my folks who are joining from the US, I appreciate you. My folks that are here from Ontario and in Alberta, we currently have a social enterprise certification program where you can get 83%. So we have a grant where you can get 83% of the training for your team back from the government of Ontario or Alberta. So that is something as well. But really for us, it's about bringing the information to as many people as possible. And we're really grateful to have you in the room. So definitely, as I mentioned, we'd love to know who's in the room, so feel free to put that your information in the chat. Any handles you want us to follow, we'd be happy to do so. And also you'll get a chance to connect with myself afterwards to, as I said, we can dive in specifically for your industry, understand who you are and look for grants in that way. So just a little bit more about EmpowerFX, really creating, empowering spaces to develop social entrepreneurs. And as I said, one of the things, and I'm sure it's happening worldwide, right? Nonprofits are struggling or fighting to get whatever, as they say, pittance or amounts from the government. There's so many organizations trying to get that from the government or donors, different organizations like that. However, one of the things we're really passionate about is helping nonprofits start a social enterprise, and for-profit companies that are trying to get grants to help their business mobilize. What we're seeing is that the government is paying attention to for-profit businesses that also has a social innovation or an impact focus. So you may hear the terminology, a social purpose business, and we are really passionate about supporting that as well. So that's just a little bit about us. Here are some of our partners. We've been supported through Alternate Savings. We have another partnership with CIBC, Sheridan College, their local community college here in Ontario. And we're continuously building out partnerships to help entrepreneurs find the funding, the resources they need to continue to build their business forward in a sustainable way. And so just a little bit about ACBN. Really, this organization is dedicated to support entrepreneurs of African and Caribbean heritage. I think it's beautiful, the work that they have done to convene entrepreneurs, to get support for entrepreneurs from allies or different groups as well, in order to ensure that some of the barriers Black entrepreneurs in particular have faced are being tackled, overcome, and we're able to build in a sustainable way our businesses. So this is just some stats about ACBN as well. So, and I think jointly, it's reflective of our organization as well. I would say in ACBN's database specifically, there's about 4,400 Black entrepreneurs. Our organization, EmpowerFX, we have about a network of about 3,000 entrepreneurs I would say about 60% Black, but the rest would make up other BIPOC communities as well as allies in that space. We do see a similar trend. About 71% of the entrepreneurs we work with are female entrepreneurs, and 91% are, active entrepreneurs in that way. And so ACBN in particular has, as I mentioned, a Black focus, where they are reaching, lots of entrepreneurs across Canada. And I think, due to the pandemic, a lot of those regional boundaries were removed because everything for the most part moved online, and we were able to reach more folks in that way. With ACBN, looking at entrepreneurship, economic inclusion, access to funding, and convening of entrepreneurs. So really, this is where the synergy between the for-profit EmpoweredFX and the nonprofit ACBN has come together in this way to be able to tackle and address the conversations around funding. We are looking for funding, but the truth is as well, when we work with entrepreneurs in our community, it's really how can you increase your own funding? And we're looking at things like, developing your sales pipeline, understanding and clarifying who you're reaching in that way. And for nonprofit organizations, as I mentioned, one of the biggest things we know and see is that the heart and impact work is happening. But if there's no funds to do that, sadly, too many doors are closed and programs are forced to not help. And so really supporting your development of business development is really key from that vantage point. And so just to kind of show you as a collective some of the grants that we have been able to do successfully for our own organizations and supporting others along the way as well. So ACBN, as some of you may know, was one of the organizations recently named in the Black Ecosystem Fund, and we were able to raise $1.3 million in that way as well. In terms of other organizations that we have supported, here are some examples. Working actively, I think this session today is come see the grants, hear a little bit about what we do, but we also have the capacity to write grants for yourself and your organization and support you through that process in a hybrid, hands-on way, or give you the space and the tools to do it yourself also. So where we start off in terms of getting support for entrepreneurs or organizations that are looking for grants is with our grant writing blueprint. Basically, it's what we like to say, the core document where we have seen similar grants or grants in general ask, specific questions or very similar questions. And so what we have done here is compile all of the questions that we have seen over the past 2 to 3 years and put it into one centralized document. What does that do for you? It gives you the ability and capability to quickly write the next grant, right? It may not be verbatim, but here it is, you have the main theme, the logic, and a plan that's set out to work through that. So the grant writing blueprint is opportunity where we support people to write the grant for themselves, and we guide and give feedback along the way. Obviously, when it comes to a specific grant that you're doing, some of the tips as it relates to grant writing, you want to be using the language of the funder. And so really looking for those nuances as you're going through the grant and preparing your application as well. The second tool that we see that, works sometimes in parallel, it's so key and important for organizations to have a business plan also ready to be able to draw from. So the beauty about the blueprint document and the business plan, it acts as a data vault. Sometimes grants are asking for your date of incorporation, for your, looking at your budget or different elements around specific projects. And what sometimes happens, people spend a lot of time trying to dig through to find these things, whereas having it in this decentralized documents, it's easy, accessible, and able to be rinse and repeat for the next grant that you do. And you all will definitely get access to the link for this slide, where you can click into the various elements. So some of the resources, again, this is a Canadian source, and as I mentioned, I will be able to follow up with some American sources for our American friends. So this portal here, I'll just click into it. It's really cool. Innovation Canada. It's pretty intuitive. It asks you, what are you looking for, and able to help you navigate to find some results for it. So Innovate Canada, I think, is working actively to make it easier for people to find grants. The challenge that I would say with any site, if it's not marketed, people may not know it exists and would not be able to go there. So our team here, we're really looking for these things that are, present and available for you all to be able to get access to for free. I will pause for a quick second before I go to the next grant and just see if there's any questions or comments, but feel free to also put it into the chat. And my colleague Ashley would stop me if there's any questions along the way as we're going through. And so for the folks that just joined us, I was just saying, if you would like, please feel free to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your company. It will be a great way for us to help you look for grants specifically for your business when we have those one-on-one conversations as well. Okay, so some of you may be aware of this, and again, to my American friends, we can definitely have a subsequent conversation. But right now, these are some of the grants in Canada that we're seeing. And as you can see as well, many of them are Ontario focused. So anyone outside of the province of Ontario, feel free to reach out, let us know in the chat where you're coming in from. And we can definitely work to help you find appropriate grants. And, one of the things that I will share is that, we're searching, but if you're on the line today and you know of a grant and you want to share it with others, feel free as well to put that grant into the chat. I think it's beneficial. We're showing up here and sharing content and information. So if you know something that can potentially help somebody else, it's always great to share in that way as well. So for-profit companies, you can see the Purolator grant, the Black Opportunity Fund. One of the things, Digital Main Street. If you want me to speak about any one in particular, I can definitely do that. But a lot of the links, when you get it, you can definitely dive into it and go from that vantage point. The one I wanted to just re-emphasize, or one of the points I wanted to just state again, a lot of the grants that we are seeing, whether they are for-profit or non-profit, well, from a non-profit perspective, grantors want to see how, when you get the funds, will it help to make your organization sustainable? So really thinking about a sustainability plan with the fund that you receive is very important. And the investment readiness program is one of those that they want to see that whatever you're building has the capacity to generate revenue, that it will be self-sustained from that vantage point. The other one is if you're a for-profit company, again, leaning into the social enterprise space, is it is important. It's not just about the profits, right? I oftentimes talk about the triple bottom line. So you're looking at the people, the planet, the profits in the process of it all, and how it works together in a sustainable way. And then for nonprofits, again, these are Ontario-based. There are other provincial ones that we could look into for you. Ontario Trillium Foundation, they oftentimes have different grants on cycle to be able to get access to them, and through the Ontario Grant Portal as well. So another component of funding we hear is, where can I get access to some dollars, loans in this way? And through ACBN, they have a micro loan fund. As low as $500 to $25,000 you can get access to. What I will say for any of these lending programs, even the one at ACBN, you want to be able to have that business plan written, right? Up to date with your financials. Any lender, they want to know where the money is going and how would you be able to repay that. I oftentimes encourage folks, I meet a lot of entrepreneurs and organizational leaders without a strong CPA or financial advisor on the team. And I definitely would recommend that you look into finding someone who can help tell the story around the numbers, because that's what they're looking at. Yes, you want money, but for what purpose? All of these things. The other piece is, through some of the banks here in Canada, they do have a specific focus right now around Black entrepreneurs. So obviously, all of these financial institutions have lending programs, but there's a couple that's unique to the Black entrepreneurship ecosystem or community that's taking place right now. One of the things I will say about this, the banks are still looking for all of the things that they wanted for any other lending program. It's still relevant, your business plan, your financials to match. Some of the interest rates, and depending on what you're looking for, I will say, I'm not sure about RBC or BMO, but CIBC does allow you to apply for working capital. Obviously, the term is shorter, and I think the interest rate is a little bit higher on that. But you can, the point for sharing this slide as well, there are funds available for you to tap into if that is a route that you would want to go down as well. So does anyone have any questions based on that slide? And I know I've just been talking a little, I'm just scrolling down here to see. Okay, so I'll keep going, and then, we can I will make sure my contact information is in the chat for you afterwards as well. The great thing about our program here at EmpoweredFX, we have a customized solution for for-profit, non-profit organizations that are looking to go after any one of these funding. So be it you need a business plan done, we can support you with that. If you're looking for grant writing, we can help you with that as well. So really focusing and honing into that, how can I put it, the sustainable conversation, right? And not just from the vantage point of, yes, let me go after the grant, yes, let me go after the loan. But remember, we're entrepreneurs, we're community builders. We have this, the desire is to continue to add value. So when a dollar comes into our coffers, we need to figure out how we put out $100, right? And so really looking at it from that vantage point, we have deeper conversation around your business model and sustainability of your organization, which is super key as we navigate. So in terms of our grant writing services, we have these info sessions every other Wednesday where we're consistently looking for new grants, and definitely we will add some additional out of province, out of Ontario focused stuff and even for American friends down south, downtown. But we also have a program called the Grant Hunter U, and that basically walks you through a guided process for completing the Blueprint grant. And we have the ability, I don't know if I'm going to just stop sharing for a while. Let me see if this slide did not update. Yeah. Okay, so I will share again. So yeah, so the info sessions, the Grant Hunter U, as I said, that is a guided process to walk you through completing the blueprint on your own. We have our funding strategy session, and that's where we're saying, knowing a little bit about you, we then task our team to go out and do a deeper search and dive for you and come back and present to you, anywhere between 10 to 15 grants that you could either apply to now or down the road, understanding that depending on where you are on your business life cycle, if you are so brand new, I'm just being honest and upfront, sometimes there aren't a lot of grants for you in that context. What funders want to see in any context: traction, people that are already saying, yes, I want your service. Yes, I'm paying you some dollars for the business, for your service or products in that way. If you're just starting out, it is so important to get going. I can't say it any other way. You got to get started, start generating some revenue or customers or clientele that you're working with so that you can tell an impactful story, right? It's not just, oh, we're thinking about starting this. Although there's space for that, just know that when we do the grant searching and finding it, those initial startup grants are very limited. We're able to do grant submissions. So just writing the grants and doing it for you in that way. Or we also have where we can review the grants for you also, right? So it's looking at, hey, I will write my own grant. I just need someone to proofread, give feedback, be honest, and we can do that as well. So those are some of the services that we have here around our grant writing services. And, we exist to see the community when helping entrepreneurs and executive directors grow their enterprises. And that is the end of my presentation. I wanted to see if anybody has any questions about any specific grants, and we can kind of go from there.
There are some questions in the chat from Yasmin and Kemi.
Okay. Yeah, so and Yasmin, the question, does our organization charge for the services? So the answer is yes. So in terms of that initial, it's between 15 minutes for us. If you're interested in just understanding who you are, we ask you to fill out a questionnaire, and it also gives us a chance to know upfront if you would be successful in getting these grants. So for example, a client came to us recently just asking about wanting to find a grant to get a building or a community space. The reality is this organization is so new, not even within their first year. And yes, we are seeing community building grants, but what we have suggested, you of your own would not be able to get that grant. However, if you find other partnerships and other organizations that are more established, that has a financial record, all of these things, you're definitely able to have a better chance. So then you have to, that person then needing to negotiate and understand what that partnership truly looks like for them to move forward in that context. So our fees from, us just doing that initial, giving you that funding summary. Hey, here are 15 grants that you may be able to apply in a sequential way. You may be able to apply to all of them right away. Either we write it for you or you write it for yourself, but you know which grants they are, you know the qualifications, we walk you through all of those, and we even give you ideas of how to position your company. So that is $249 plus tax. And then our grant writing service fee ranges anywhere, if we're doing hiring grants, up to bigger, larger grants. It could be anywhere from 500 to 3,000 per grant as you need in that context. So I hope that was helpful to the question that you asked, Yasmin. The second one. Yeah, so if you are considering transitioning your incorporation to a nonprofit, grants, so you're looking potentially for a grant that will pay the fees, or like what specifically, I'm curious, you're looking for a grant to help with that. From a legal perspective, I would definitely say you're either having a conversation with your accountant, or you're having a conversation with your lawyer about your organizational structure and the process to change or transfer in that way. I cannot say that I'm an expert in that, but we do have legal professions that can potentially help you navigate that. Do you have any advice on the barriers of opting for nonprofits? So I was actually having this conversation this morning or yesterday, and it felt like this morning because I'm thinking about it, okay? So we actually have, my encouragement to everyone is understand that a nonprofit organization is not a legacy building tool. If I start a nonprofit, I cannot pass that nonprofit to my child, right? If I have a for-profit business, I can pass that to my child and their children and all of these things. So when you're thinking about what are you building and for what purpose, really considering where is this thing going. And it by no means you say, hey, I want to leave the legacy for the community. That is a valid path as well, right? So understanding that with a nonprofit, it is a community-based thing. It is, yes, you can plan for, the succession, transitions, all of these things, but really I see the nonprofit that we've created as a gift to the world, right? At some point, I do not have any control over that. So the question I'll ask you is, what are you building and for what purpose? In my own journey, we have a for-profit entity that supports our nonprofit entity, and it helps with the sustainability. And I opt in for that model, but really, a barrier, if you're just thinking traditional nonprofit as well, where I'm trying to steer people away from thinking about traditional nonprofit, you want to be thinking about sustainability for that organization. So from the jump, from the beginning of your establishment of this nonprofit, you want to be thinking about a social enterprise, earned income, earn revenue, getting a profit, or in the nonprofit terminology, surplus that comes back into the organization, right? So that's definitely something that I would share. What we're seeing is traditional nonprofits are being less funded because they are not talking about sustainability. So I hope that was helpful to you, Kimmy.
Hi, Chris. It's Tim.
Hey, Tim.
Can I mention something about that?
Of course, go for it, Tim.
So, I come from the corporate world, high up in the corporate world, and I've been trying to navigate in the last 2 years our Black community ecosystem, and to what you're saying, a lot of our Black business are business minded, or people who want to start a business always think nonprofit because they think that there's free money that they get. That's why they think nonprofit. But everyone that I actually work with, they only start a nonprofit or a charity from a for-profit business because they know that they can actually fund it, and actually get some tax breaks. So I think we have to change the mindset of every person that's coming into our associations to actually not go into just doing a nonprofit because that's what they think they need to do because they think they can make money, free money. They have to think, you know what, I got to get in here and get a for-profit scale, and then from that, show them how to use that and do their, their umbrella underneath that, which is a nonprofit and a charity that they could pass that down to. That's just my thinking. It's just a mindset. I think that we think that doing a nonprofit, we're going to get free money, and not realizing that you need to have a for-profit and scale that, and then you can actually do good with that.
Okay, very, very good suggestion, feedback. And yeah, Tim, if you wanted to put your contact in the chat whereby folks can get in contact with you, I know you do amazing things, and I think that's awesome. I see another question here. I'm not located in Canada, but I sell to Canadian customers. Would I get access to the grants? And so again, I would say you definitely want to have a conversation from a legal taxation perspective, but I know that our space here, so one of the things that EmpoweredFX has is a co-working space located in Brampton, and we do have US-based companies using our physical address here as their own Canadian base. So there's opportunities like that as well that you could take advantage of, because some of these grants, when you're applying for them, they do ask for your business address. If it's outside of the region or the spot, you don't qualify, right? So that's what I will say on a super high level, but I would definitely invite you to speak to either an accountant, a legal person about it. But applying to grant, it's open to anyone as long as it will say, are you an Ontario resident? Being able to sorry, I just got a message just popped up on my screen saying my brother was in an accident. So sorry, I just, 1 second. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. Everything is fine. It's just one of those, Anyways, I was reminded recently that we are human first and everything else after. Yes. Let me just find my thoughts and I will. Yeah. So what I was saying in terms of being a Canadian citizen, sometimes the grants ask for Canadian residents, Canadian citizen. You could say business located in Canada, in Ontario. So I see opportunities whereby external, when I say external, out of province companies being able to apply for grants, as well as out of country as well. Just please don't go and apply for a grant and say, Chris Bud said I can apply for it, if your ducks are not in the row, right? So my message to all of you, it is so important when you're setting up your organization or business structures that you have people, I call them the power team. So your your legal, your finance, marketing, someone that is going to help you knows and understand the system in a in-depth way, not just, oh, I file my own taxes because I'm good at it. You may not be having the same tax conversations that CPAs who are entrenched in this stuff, are having on a daily basis, and sometimes you miss it. So for example, I will just share this as well. In Canada, you were able to apply for work from home rebate. And I met an entrepreneur recently, and she said to me, oh, I did my own taxes. And I said, did you apply for this rebate because she was an employee plus transitioning in her business full-time? She's like, no. I was like, this is why I get the professionals on my team, right? Like, yes, I know how to check the boxes, but if you don't know, or if you're not paying attention, you miss those little details that can help you move forward. Looking to transfer in order to access more. To clarify, Kimmy, I don't know if you want to unmute and just explain your second question.
It was just to clarify the comment I was making. I was wanting to transfer to a nonprofit to have more accessibility to grants. But as you said, the for-profit that supports a nonprofit is a better idea.
Yeah, and as Tim was like, folks, we're innovators, we're creators, we're bringing value to the marketplace, and especially when there is that ability to transact value and receive the funds, focus on and I say this for the nonprofit social enterprises as well as your for-profit, really nail your sales funnel, right? It is about generating revenue. And think about it, if in your for-profit you're able to do massive dollars, you can do so much more by transferring the wealth there. But if you just say, okay, I'm gonna get my nonprofit, and you're kind of sitting and waiting for grants, that is not a sustainable model, right? So that's where, just circling back there. The next one, being able to sign up for business plan help. We'll definitely put that information in the chat that you can either book in a one-on-one with myself, fill out the grant writing form, and if you need help with business plans, we can definitely do that as well. We can definitely send the presentation as well as the recording over to you all after this. I don't see any additional questions, but feel free to unmute and ask a question, and I'm here.
There is a question from Prestige.
Yeah, I will set, let me get the information for the business plan, and yes, we can definitely help with that as well.
I'm curious, are there any like associations or like conferences where grant writers or like people who like create the grants that they like kind of like convene?
Ooh, people who create the grants, that's a deeper I'm sure there are, and Ryan Knight, who typically runs these just info sessions, he got into one of these rooms when they were talking about social finance and some of the social funding grants that you'll be seeing coming down the pipeline. He got into the room by accident. And when he got into this room, when they were talking about what the grant should look like, the qualification for the grant, all of these things, they were like, how did you get in here? Because Ryan was asking very challenging questions. So there are those type of meetings where the people that come together, so a lot, for example, a lot of the government grants that you see, so for example, the Black Ecosystem Fund, there was a room of people that worked on that the average organization or leader was not privy to being part of, right? And so most times grantors, they set up their own spaces whereby they, hey, we have an idea, we want to give out a grant, we have this amount of money, let's talk about criteria. So oftentimes the general public, I mean, maybe Tim, if you want to speak to it, but I have not seen where it's like an open space. These grants are going to be formed, come and tell us what you want kind of thing.
Yeah.
In terms of like a,
yeah,
sorry,
if
go
I want to
ahead.
say something to that, yeah, they won't have that, and they wouldn't do that. They would say they have their protected policies, and their boards that would set that up, so they wouldn't allow that to the general public. Good for Ryan that he got into that one. But that raised my eyebrows because they don't allow that.
No. But in terms of grant writing associations and convening, I'm sure there's one. I'm just not familiar with it. Ryan, my colleague, would be able to speak better to that. But typically, we just hear about it after the fact when it comes with grants, and either we're doing the searches, on the different portals that we use, to be able to find grants for folks.
Can I say one thing, Chris? So everyone
Yes,
that's
go
on here
ahead.
everyone that's on there for the first time, and this is where they need to come every single 2 weeks to find out what's going on. This is the only place, and I'm with, I think, around 16 now associations across Canada, and this is the only place that actually comes and tells you what's going on with grants. Seriously, unless it just comes out one time from a info session. So come here every 2 weeks. Always, and tell your friends. This is where you're gonna find it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you for
Because
the
I'm just trying to like build my network. So it's like I'm trying to see like where are other places, including this one. This is my first time here, and I'm definitely gonna come back. But I'm trying to just see like how to, like surround myself with people who are more into that area, because I mostly focus on like Amazon and e-commerce and like digital marketing. So I'm just trying to like branch out.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And it's about networking, right? And I see Paquita, I think I said that correct. Shared also the Grant Professionals Association. They have conferences too. So yeah, as I said, I'm sure there are other groups. Tim is well networked, and oftentimes in most spaces or organization, it's kind of like we keep everything to ourselves. But really here at E4X and ACBN, we feel like what we know, we want to make sure that everybody knows whether or not they are paying member or not, right? And that's really been a mandate as it relates to these types of things. When the pandemic happened, I will just share, EmpoweredFX and ACBN got together, and we were doing HIT for Ontario-based entrepreneurs. And this is when we reach a lot of people even outside of Ontario. We were going through the government sites and walking people through how to fill these forms, because we want to help. We believe that if we know and we just keep it to ourselves, then it's of no value, right? And that's why we do these info sessions. And we do, so for example, again, this is just specific for my Ontario-based folks, the investment readiness program, as an example, it is reopening, all of these things, and you can apply. What we've done with all of the grants at some point is go through line by line. Those are typically $20 for those sessions, because we go through, prepare, get the stuff done, but we walk through the entire grant and show you how to fill it out. Really, where we go from there, it is a group session, but if you want us to again, look at it in an in-depth way, give you feedback, those additional pieces at cost. But when you show up here, you have access to the deck, you get access to the links, you're free to go and apply for the grants on your own as well. So it's about keeping everybody in the know. Are there any additional questions?
Does Empowered 4X or the Afro-Caribbean Business Network, do they have networking events for the members? Because I'd love to, like, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. We do. ACBN, they just finished a massive conference, and so they're going to be picking up their networking probably in the fall, but they are doing some hybrid stuff. I will make sure that everyone has access to their event calendar. Sorry, so that you can be aware of what's happening at ACBN. For Empowered FX, we typically do a monthly event in partnership with Jelly Social, which is a networking group for BIPOC founders and allies. Really the cool thing about it, and to my American friends, we have people from all across the world coming out to these networking events. The next one is on July 28th. So I'll make sure that those calendars are in the follow-up email as well. And you can stay tuned, plug in. I will put my contact information or my calendar in the chat as well, and that will be in the follow-up email. You can definitely book in. As I said, if you want us to help you figure out how to strategize about getting grants, we can talk to you about all of those pieces there as well. Awesome. Are there any other questions? I don't want to keep you, there's 10 minutes, and I know some of you, if you're like me, you're zooming from room to room, definitely would want to give you a chance to get a bio break, stretch your legs before the next meeting or activity. But if there aren't any other questions, I definitely appreciate you all taking the time to be here with us today. And we will be in touch in 2 weeks. Look out for our follow-up email. And yeah, I wish you all the best and happy grant hunting. Awesome.